And welcome back to the Flow SportsFix on this Wednesday. Well, the AFL season for 2021, it all starts tomorrow. We're all looking forward to it. And there's been a new rule introduction that was starting today. It's been the big issue of the day. To break it down for us, to let us know the impact, we handball, and I handball quite accurately, to the Statman.
Thanks, Clayton. Well, let's have a look at the AFL, given that this time tomorrow will be just hours away from the kickoff of the 2021 AFL Premiership season. And in the final, rundown to the start of the season, the AFL, in its infinite wisdom, has decided to introduce a new rule. And this is a new medical substitute rule, the return of the vest, so to speak. It's a very interesting rule, this one. And the way it works is the following. So all clubs will be able to use 23 players for each game instead of the regular 22, but the 23rd player will only be able to take the field after club doctors have assessed an injury or a concussed player as medically unfit to continue in the match. Now, how's this? To be eligible for a medical substitution, the club doctor must decide that the injured player will be unable to play a game in the next 12 days. Now, we'll come back to that. Just bear that in mind. The injured player will be unable to play a game in the next 12 days. Concussed players must already sit out a mandatory 12-day recovery period under the new protocol, so that ticks that box already for concussed players. Originally, this rule started out as being a concussion sub-rule. Well, now it's turned into any sort of major injury in a game. So if a player does an ACL in the game, then that player can be substituted out and the 23rd man given a run. Now, to verify this, club doctors must provide the AFL with a medical certificate on the first working day after the match as evidence the player sustained the injury that they say he did. This is where it all gets a little bit confusing for mine. Any club found to be breaking the medical substitute rule can be sanctioned for conduct unbecoming or prejudicial to the interests or reputation of the AFL and bringing the game of football into disrepute. Now, my question straight away is, okay, the medical team assess a player who has gone down with maybe a hamstring injury, and they have scans done the following day. They find out that the hamstring injury isn't as bad as they first feared. Now, does this mean that if you, in that instance, substitute a player out, that regardless of whether he's deemed fit to play the following week or not, he has to miss out? That we're not entirely sure of. What we do know is that the club would be charged should they do that. Now, clubs will name a normal squad of 22 players and 4 emergencies before the game, as has always been the case. They won't have to name the 23rd medical substitute player until the final teams are confirmed an hour before the first bounce. Now, this new rule is only going to apply for AFL senior level, not in any state league or junior competitions. And if the 23rd medical substitute player doesn't take the field, they will still have a senior game credited to their career tally. So imagine that. Imagine being selected as the medical substitute for your first game and you don't even take the field. I don't like that one little bit. On grand final day, any unused medical substitute player on the winning team will also receive a premiership medal. So for the first time, someone who does not take the field on grand final day will be eligible for a premiership medal. And that in itself opens up all kinds of Pandora's box situations. Where will that end? Will every member of the squad get a premiership medal down the track? It certainly opens up the door for that discussion. Now, the genesis of this new rule, of course, was discussed through concussion, and we understand the need for that, given the situation around concussion. We're learning more and more about it, and the fact is that if a player is brought from the ground after receiving a head knock and fails a concussion test, they'll be out of action for the next 12 days. And a player, the 23rd player, can come in and replace them. But I'm worried about the situation around other injuries. Does it open up a scenario of rorting where perhaps club doctors can sign off on injuries that maybe don't exist? Perhaps a player has drastically out of form, and they're going to give them a couple of weeks off anyway, so they get them to have a bit of a limp. I mean, it does open up that scenario, I guess. On the flip side of that, what if a player, as I mentioned earlier, comes from the ground, they're assessed by the medical team to have a hamstring injury or a calf injury or an injury of some sort, and it's found out after the fact that that injury isn't as serious as was first thought. When bringing a rule in like this, I guess you've got to have a look at all kinds of scenarios as well. Now, does that mean the 23rd man, given that they're going to have an AFL game recorded against their name, is then ineligible for any other competition? So if they don't play at all. Bearing in mind that sometimes an AFL game will be played before the second team of that club plays in the same city. It is the case from time to time. Does that mean that if you pick a player that has already played in the VFL game that they, or an SANFL game, are they eligible to be selected as the 23rd man? I mean, these are all of the bits and pieces that we're yet to find out about when it comes to this rule. And I must say, Clayton, I've got some serious concerns about it. I think it opens up a Pandora's box of all kinds of issues and problems going forward. I understand the reason that the AFL has looked to bring it in, and Stephen Hocking has bowed to the will of the club coaches in this area, but I'm not sure about the practicalities of the rule, which is why the substitute rule was dumped in the first place, if we remember back to the 2016 controversy around that. So all in all, we'll see how it unfolds. I guess we'll get our first look at the rule in practice on Thursday evening. Richmond taking on Carlton in the season opener at the MCG. I can't wait for the footy to get back. Still not sure about this rule.
And I don't think he's the only one. It's going to be a great topic of discussion over the next few weeks. And we're all looking forward to it, but we really want the football to start, don't we? We're all looking forward to the start of the season tomorrow, and then for local football and netball to be starting in our local regions right across the Flow network as well. Well, that's the Statman, Jase the Statman, with you with his little AFL report for us on the SportsFix today. Still more to come for you. We have got the integrity of the game, rankings complaint, a virtual interview, the same result as the first time, and our world game guru with his radical hairstyle. He's getting all radical coming up next.